Well, thank you for that. My name is James Lewis, as just mentioned. I'm 22 years old. I recently graduated with a degree in graphic design, and I was able to leave university and start a freelance career straight from university due to the fact that I've accumulated over 300,000 followers through 2 Instagram channels, James R. Lewis and Ligature Collective. So today I'm going to be talking about how social media facilitates you to pursue your passion. I'm going to be talking through 2 lessons that I learned growing up through experience, and then towards the end of the talk I'm going to be condensing that down into 3 easily digestible points that you can take away today and apply if you'd like to yourself. I'll be touching on compassion and how there's been a lot of compassionate people in my life and how that's basically helped me to get to where I am today. So for the first lesson today, your perception defines your reality. I'm going to need a bit of audience participation, if that's all right. So say I was going to give you now a free ticket to go skydiving on your next available day off. Can I have a show of hands who would accept it? So that's about like 70% of the room. Nice. Am I right in assuming then that those who didn't put their hand up couldn't think of anything worse to do on their day off? Yeah, I see. It's a nodding heads. Okay, fair enough. So what we have here, we have the same situation, but 2 different perspectives. And the perspective is, the fear of heights, the fear of, what could happen. And then that fear then determines the outcome of the situation. So the point I'm trying to make is, whatever situation you're going into, your mindset, your perspective, your perception defines the outcome in the end. Now, this is how I learned about this growing up. One of the first memories I have as a child, I was around 5 years old, and I was always quite a creative child. I was sat in a crowd of people my age, kids my age, and my name got called out, and I stood up, and this feeling of absolute elation came over me. I was shaking a little bit, and I walked to the front, shake this guy's hand on stage, and he presents me £5, which was the star prize for this drawing competition. And my mind was racing at the time. Like, I was so excited. I thought, I was going to be the next Picasso. I was thinking how many Freddos I could buy with £5, which at the time was quite a few, So yeah, that was incredible. Looking back now, I realized that that was the time in my life where my perception of creativity was changed. I was able to see it not just as something that was fun and I got value from, but was something that I could also be compensated for also. Now, fast forward 10 years. Both of my parents had passed away. I was living on a broken camp bed at a friend's house. It was a really tough time, as you probably imagine. So I had very little self-compassion. My perception of myself was, at an all-time low. When it became too much for me to sleep on this bed, I became legally homeless. So, if it wasn't for compassionate people like the Islamite charity, extended friends and family, and the Vale of Glamorgan government, I wouldn't be here today. So I'd like to thank them real quickly. So, like most people my age, I spent a lot of my time escaping reality through video games. So what we would do, it was a craze at the time, you would post video footage of yourself playing games online. And with that, people were getting graphic design made for them for these early YouTubers, and they were getting people their age. So I was around 15, 16, and I was playing video games, but I started to get a lot more interested in these YouTube backgrounds and the short animated videos and the stuff that was going along with this. So I saved up as much money as I could, and I bought my first laptop. And yeah, it is bright pink. You can't really see from there, but yeah, it was a bright pink Asus laptop. It was the cheapest thing I could find, but it wasn't just the beginning of my creative career. It was the beginning of myself building a sense of self-compassion. So whilst my friends were playing video games and they spent their time digitally shooting each other, I was exploring Photoshop, Illustrator. I was 3D modeling on software like Cinema 4D, just sort of getting to grips with software and rekindling that creative spark that I'd lost going through that traumatic time in my life. After a while, I started to actually get commissioned to create these YouTube backgrounds for other artists my age. And at 15, 16, this was incredible. Once again, I was earning £5 a go, which was more of a symbol at this age. I could buy a lot less Freddos, but it was a symbol to me that, you know, I could be making money doing what I was passionate about. So this led me to explore typography, because I realized a lot of the background graphics I was designing were based around typography. So this is the first piece of typography I actually ever designed. At the time, what I was doing was sharing all of my process, as I do now, on YouTube through videos. So I'd make videos basically outlining the whole design process, and people would give me feedback, and I started to develop a sense of self-worth through that. And like, it really helped me to sort of value myself a lot more. People were getting in touch with me for what I could provide them, and I started to see myself more as someone who was a bit more worthwhile. It was around that time that I came across the quote by C.S. Lewis: "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." This quote completely changed my outlook on what I had been through. I was able to completely transmute the hardships that I'd gone through into something that was going to drive me. It was going to push me to be a better person. And I decided I was going to do that through creativity. So I decided to go to university and study graphic design and pursue my passion. And that's where I learned my second lesson, which was creating and sharing what you love attracts similar people and situations. So I went off to university and I started to study graphic design. And at the same time, I was pursuing lettering as a side project, as a passion project, something that I just enjoyed doing. When I had a spare moment, that is what I would be doing. And I was sharing this typography on Instagram and Behance at the time. And I started to develop this sort of sense of style. I explored different aspects of calligraphy. What I was doing, I was messaging all of those artists who had like tens of thousands of followers, and I was like, you know, how do you get followers? How do I get good at what I'm doing? And now and again, some of them will reply, and they were like kind, compassionate people who were like rays of hope. You know, they helped me, inspired me to keep going, which is why I try to do my bit now, and I reply to as many messages as I can when I get inboxes, because it really helps. So I was messaging these people, and obviously, as you can imagine, you know, they can't bestow the gift of greatness upon you. That's something you have to figure out for yourself, and I came to realize that. So I started to get in touch with people like who were on the same level as me. You know, people who were creating work as I did for a passion. They enjoyed what they were doing, but they weren't making money from it. It was just something they enjoyed. And from that, we grew, and sort of like a clique, basically, a digital tribe, made a few friends, like-minded people. I got into the habit of, every time I posted a bit of work, I'd send it off to these like 5 or 6 people, and they would critique it. And it was helpful because I was able to look at my work, see what was wrong with it so I could improve next time. But it also proved somewhat detrimental because every time I put a bit of work out there, I was actively looking to find what was wrong with it. So I wasn't appreciating it. I didn't have a sense of self-compassion where I could view something I'd created and think, wow, that's incredible. So I hadn't attained that yet. So as I said, I continued exploring, and I stopped messaging people so much. And I focused most of my time on actually creating lettering. And with that, to my surprisement, people started messaging me like, you know, how do you get good at typography? How do you get followers? And this is like kind of mind-blowing for me because I was like a couple months before doing exactly the same thing. All that had changed was I was applying myself daily to create something and explore within myself new techniques, new styles, rather than looking externally for people to sort of, you know, inspire me. I was inspiring myself. So I continued to explore, and I started getting into vectorized lettering. And then my first big breakthrough came when I was invited to be part of the Ligature Collective. The Ligature Collective is an international group of typographic artists who came together to promote typographic arts and design. And I was blown away when I was invited to be a part of this group because a lot of the people who were in the group when it started out were people who I had messaged early on, and you know, they didn't get back to me. But yeah, so these people were making a living doing what I did for passion. And I was able to talk to these people and have ideas back and forth, and they inspired me to like pursue it full time. So with that, we started becoming quite well known. I got like a huge influx of following and people checking out my work, which is, you know, is incredible. It was mind blowing. Like, it still didn't hit home at all that this is, you know, something I could do for a real life job. So I started getting international commissions, which was incredible, from like companies in America. Drake Smith was a German bar. We have Mulholland Drive, which is an American guitar pedal company. So I was designing lettering for products, for logos. Yeah, that was it mostly. And this was incredible, you know. I was able to pursue my passion and I was finally getting compensated for it. But it didn't really hit home that this was going to be my full-time job until I had my first local commission, which was Horizon Bay, you all saw this morning. At first I was super anxious, you know. I'd had to meet face to face with a real client, and university had built up this image of how industry was so cutthroat and how, you know, you have to be the best on top of your game. So I went to Josh of Horizon Bay, quite anxious, just, you know, presented my work, and, you know, he was super receptive of it. He was, you know, overjoyed. Originally it was just going to be a piece of lettering to go on a t-shirt, but he adopted it as the entire logo for his brand. So it proved to me that, you know, the work I was creating had value, and it sort of instilled in me that final bit of self-compassion that allowed me to pursue this a lot further on. This project also attracted a lot more clothing branding and clothing lettering projects. So every bit of work that I was creating, I'd put out online, and with that, it would attract more work. So it was a nice cycle, basically. I got to create what I'd love to do, and then that would attract more people who wanted me to create that similar thing. So that was ideal, really. It gave me the confidence to try something new again. So I designed my first typeface, Quaint. It was a challenge. I completely took it upon myself to learn type design. I hand drew every single letter and marketed the typeface, and then seeing it go on to sell hundreds of copies around the world and get picked up by Disney Studios, even got a copy. Yeah, that was an incredible experience. Like, it was overwhelming that people around the world appreciated what I was doing so much that they would purchase a typeface off me. And that again led on to more typeface projects where I was able to design this logo based, this typeface based on a logo from an American tire company. They wanted an entire typeface based off it. So I got to hand draw in calligraphy each letter, and as you can see, it took a while. It was a learning curve, but it was really fulfilling to see it come through in the end. Finally, the project that I want to speak about before I wrap this up into 3 points is the Hopeful Traders project I recently completed. This was a project quite close to my heart because Hopeful Traders are a charity that deals with homeless people in London. I was invited to produce a print, as you can see there. We got 50 of them made, and they are going on sale to help raise money and awareness for the homeless people in London and around the world. With this product, I was able to give back to the homeless charity Llamai a percentage of the profit that, you know, the charity that helped me when I was in my tough time. So that was a really, really fulfilling experience for me to be able to use my creativity to give back. Right now, so we have 3 T's here to successfully pursue your passion. So this is basically a condensed version of everything I just talked about, all the lessons that I had learned growing up, into 3 points that hopefully you guys can take away today. And if you're looking to pursue your passion, you can apply these to what you're doing. So the first T is trust. You've got to have trust in yourself, God, the universe, whatever you want to trust in, that what you're doing is right for you, that what you're doing is worthwhile. You know, you got to have that perception, like we discussed earlier, that you're going to do well and what you're doing is going to be successful. Otherwise, you're going to go into it half-heartedly and you're not going to get positive results, in my opinion. The second T is tribe. To grow, it's so helpful to have a group of like-minded people around you who share the same knowledge, the same appreciation for the craft that you're doing. And yeah, that really helped me along my journey, and I was able to use the people around me to inspire me. The third T is transparency. The time for presenting ideal images of yourself, you know, this Instagram perfect image, I think it's coming to an end. People can see straight through it. You know, people are inspired by seeing growth. You know, if I just went out and posted like this image, for example, today, it wouldn't have as much of an impact as if, you know, people had seen all of my journey, my progress, everything I've gone through. And yeah, it helps, it gives you a lot more of an appreciation for someone in their craft when you can see them going from not so great to a lot better. Now, before I open this up to any questions, I'd like to share with you a recent video of a lot of the artworks that I've been creating.
Again.
Thank you.